Please watch this video and let us discuss. What do you think about the performance of this lawyer friend of Marshal Abubakar? Did he convince you?
At exactly 1:15 a.m. this morning, I called him. I was awake because I was monitoring him. I called him. I said, Marshal, how far? He said he just entered his house. So if he was not interested in getting the guy out, he would not cut short his trip. And when I came in this morning, I was still chatting with him this morning. When I came into court, I met Femi. I said, this is the message that Marshal sent to me. Marshal sent me a message on WhatsApp that, hold my brief, should in case I come late to court. So, and I showed Femi, I said, this is the message, this is what Marshal said. He said no, that he was going to lead. So, and I said, call Marshal. He refused. I called Marshal in his presence, put it on loudspeaker, and Marshal said, I'm already by the court, I want to enter now. And this guy was hearing it. So, when Marshal entered, the judge gave a hint that if Marshal withdraw his appearance, automatically whatever he files is going with him. And Femi was sitting down, still challenging Marshal's appearance. And it will interest you to know that Femi and Marshal, they appeared together on the day of arraignment. So I expected that immediately Femi saw Marshal, he was arguing with me, which is fine. But immediately he saw Marshal, he should just allow him. And when the judge gave the hint that once you withdraw your appearance, anything you file is going. And what that means is, that means the bail application will not be held today.
He wasn't granted bail. And the reason is because the lawyer, Barrister Marshal, who filed for the bail application, withdrew the application. You know, even the judge, according to what they said, was surprised. He asked the lawyer, you are withdrawing all this, like we should send him back because you won't be the lead counsel. Mind you, the person who is actually justice pleaser, justice lawyer, is senior to him in the bar, you know, and he's been, you know, also active in the case. That person was supposed to be the lead counsel from day one. But Marshal first introduced, and because they didn't want altercation in courts, you know, they allowed him. They all jointly applied for the bail, the bail application. In fact, to cut the long story, I'm so shocked, I'm short of words. To cut the long story short, in front of everybody, judge, yes, everybody, he withdrew. Marshal withdrew because he's not lead counsel. I've never seen anything like this.
So what was the impression it created to your hearing? What was this lawyer trying to do? What did you get? Did you think that it was the judge that asked Marshal to withdraw the bail application? Was that your thought? If it was, then this lawyer has successfully deceived and fooled you. Here is exactly what happened. It was a battle of egos. Who is to be the lead counsel? Please understand that in court cases, you can have more than one lawyer. You can have a retinue of lawyers, a team of lawyers, but only one lead counsel. And it doesn't mean that it is only that lead counsel that will speak in the case. No, it doesn't mean that. So, here was a battle of lead counsel. The lawyer, is it Taiwo or whoever it is, that insisted on being lead counsel into this case? Somebody says, oh, why did he struggle the lead counsel position with Marshal Abubakar? I'll answer that with a question. If you were this Barrister Taiwo, whatever his name is, and you are part of the legal team, and Marshal Abubakar made himself the lead counsel, and you allowed it. But after he filed the bail application, and Justice Crack was remanded till May 25. But then you now thought that, oh, May 25 is too far. Let us work to bring the date forward. But then you now needed the bail application itself, which is in the custody of Barrister Marshal. And then you are calling Barrister Marshal to bring that bail application. And Barrister Marshal is nowhere to be found. Even when you try to reach him on phone, he tells you, oh, it's with so-so person, it's with so-so person. At the end of the day, you couldn't get it. So what did you then do? Remember, in an attempt to bring forward the bail hearing, you then went to go and file for a certified true copy because Marshal did not give you the bail application. You got the certified true copy and you did the necessary things and you succeeded in moving the bail hearing date forward to 14th of May. From 25th to, you brought it forward. In all of this, Barrister Marshal was nowhere to be found. In fact, it was later you now found out that Marshal was somewhere in Turkey chilling with the big boys, chopping live. Yeah. And then, no problem. He has done his bit. You have successfully gotten the CTC and you have brought the date forward. Now, it is D-Day, May 14. D-Day, you are in court. Then somebody comes and says, Marshal has asked me to hold brief for him. So the person who is even saying Marshal asked him to hold brief wants to actually be lead counsel. And the Barrister Taiwo, I'm using Taiwo because I'm not sure of the name of that lawyer now insists that, no, I'm going to be lead counsel. Then the lawyer says, no, Marshal is here. If you were that Barrister Taiwo, would you allow Marshal to lead the case again, to be lead counsel? Considering that if the bail fails and you need to attempt it again, it is possible that Marshal will also not be available. Would you not say that that Barrister Taiwo is excused for insisting that he will be lead counsel? This is where we are. This is where exactly the egos now started clashing. And this is where I start blaming Barrister Marshal. Now, this lawyer friend of his is trying to create the impression that Honorable Justice Joyce Abdul Malik asked Marshal to withdraw his bail application. This is not true. It's actually a very serious manipulation of the truth. It's a big lie. What the justice said is this: if, after he asked Justice Crack, who will be your lead counsel, or who do you want as your lead counsel? And he pointed at Taiwo. What Barrister Marshal would have done if ego did not set in, would have accepted to remain in the team of lawyers for Justice Crack. He could have remained and he wouldn't have needed to withdraw his bail application. What Barrister Marshal did was to say he is withdrawing himself from the case. It was at that point that the Justice Abdul Malik now said, if you withdraw from the case, it means you will be withdrawing your bail application. No? And Marshal said, yes. And Marshal said, yes. Now, this is where Marshal was at fault. Marshal knows that he did not need to withdraw his appearance for Justice Crack just because he was not allowed to be lead counsel. People are talking about, oh, he has worked. Somebody wants to come and take his glory. This is not about taking glory. You see, if it is for Marshal, then Justice Joyce Abdul Malik was right in advising Justice Crack that he should be careful the kind of lawyers he allows to represent him. Because most of these lawyers are about social media clout. And if it is about glory for Marshal, then he's been corrupted by the likes of Very Dark Man, who has also been corrupted. This is not the Very Dark Man that we used to know. This is not Very Dark Man that we came out to fight for. This Very Dark Man obviously has got the fame and the clout that is wanted all along. And now, he has become everything that he spoke against. Everything. And now he doesn't want to even take part in anything that would make the system change. Because if the system changes and Nigeria works, will you need a VDM? You won't. So I understand his perspective. It's self-preservation. He's trying to preserve his business. It has become a business model for him. But unfortunately, people like Barrister Marshal are now also casualties of this corruption of character. Barrister Marshal, on this one, you not try. Like I've said, instead of all these repeated attempts at doing damage control, trying to confuse the issues for people who don't understand court processes, they will now feel Justice Abdul Malik actually asked you to withdraw. Justice Abdul Malik did not ask you to withdraw, Marshal. Upon the recognition of Barrister Taiwo as lead counsel, you had the option to remain in that legal team and you could still have contributed, but you chose to sacrifice the freedom of your so-called fellow comrade, Justice Crack, just to satisfy your ego. It's not about principles. Nothing about principles here. In law, in court practices, when you are not lead counsel, you can be part of the legal team. So there was no breach. They didn't come to ask you not to represent Justice Crack. That is when you will require to have been informed beforehand. Barrister Marshal, not every Nigerian is a dummy. Because you came out and said, by practice, they're supposed to inform you beforehand. That is if they are withdrawn, you are going to be sacked from representing Justice Crack. That's when they needed to give you a notice. But this one, they are just changing who is lead counsel. That can happen on the spot. And so far as Justice Crack is not firing you from representing him, so far as he still allows you to be on his legal team, you did not need to withdraw your appearance. For clarity, Nigerians know this. Marshal Abubakar withdrew his appearance because he felt that his ego was bruised since he was no longer the lead counsel. He chose to withdraw his appearance. And by implication, he knew, and Justice Abdul Malik reminded him, he knew that by withdrawing his appearance for Justice Crack, it will sacrifice the bail application, which he insisted on filing by himself, including the Adeyanju, who was not even in court, and excluding people like Sam Amadi and this Barrister Taiwo, who were there. To what end, only God and Barrister Marshal knows. So in all of this, these things are clear. And Nigerians take note. You need to understand legal processes. So many people think that court processes are only matters for lawyers. It is not. You can represent yourself if you understand court processes very well. If you understand the law that governs the matter that brought you to court very well, you can represent yourself. So that you are not a lawyer is not an excuse not to understand what goes on in court. In fact, if you have time, go to court. Go and watch and see how court proceedings are held. Try to understand one or two things. Educate yourself, because at the end of the day, you are your own best lawyer. You are your own best lawyer. Because ojú olójú kò lè dàbí ojú ẹni. Barrister Marshal, this one, you not try. Obani, Kubaje. Yeah, you have delayed it a few days. But Monday, we'll still continue with this process. In all of this, we have lost track. And this is where I feel that Very Dark Man is deliberately trying to change the narrative to launder the image of the Nigerian army. The enforced disappearance of Justice Crack for 72 hours. Nobody's talking about that anymore. But it will not slide. People like us won't let it slide. While we appreciate the sacrifices that the Nigerian army, the Nigerian military, make to keep us safe, we will not let any breach of their constitutional power, any overreach, to go unanswered. Because if we do, we are creating a society where there is no rule of law, where life is brutish and short and miserable.